What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with a very vocal Luca, and we're going to begin an audio journey that's been waiting for a little while. Thank you again to Michaela for sending a great many things, including Take That. And I understand there are a lot of Take That fans out there, so if anyone's new here, welcome to the channel. So yes, she sent a couple different albums by them. The first thing she sent is Take That Progressed, or Progressed, depending on how you enunciate it. Nevertheless, I did a little research on Discogs, and from what I understand, this group was around in the 90s, that was sort of their heyday, and then I guess Robbie Williams left the group in the mid-90s, came back, I think, in 2010, and this album was released during the period where he was back. Now, Discogs says that he left again in 2012, and then one of the other original members left a few years later, I want to say like 2016. Nevertheless, I do think this is with a classic lineup of the group. I don't really know anything about them. Ultimately, I have heard the name Robbie Williams before. I think he's their singer, but even that is just sort of I've seen it in pop culture somewhere. I've seen someone mention him in an article and so on. I don't think I've ever actually heard any of his music or indeed any Take That. So I'm going to kick this off. It's actually a double CD, and I noticed in the year before this, they released an album with a yellow cover that's called Progress. So I don't know if this is like an updated version or whether this is like a sequel album, if you will, where it's like Progress and now we're progressed. We've made that progress, which if I had to guess, I would think maybe it's the latter. In any case, as I said, this is a double album, and we're going to kick off the Take That journey with a 2-for-1 reaction. And the first two tracks on disc 1 are The Flood, followed by SOS, Save Our Souls, which feels like a nice conceptual sequence, meaning a flood is something where it's a deluge, a oncoming of water that is immersive and or potentially lethal, fatal, damaging to property, to human life, or to other forms of life. And then SOS, Save Our Souls, the idea of, we can't escape this calamity on our own. We need someone to come rescue us. So again, it feels like there's a nice sequence there. Not having known anything about their work, I don't really have any insight on the nature of their song titling or indeed their songwriting, which is to say, again, for anyone new here, I tend to speculate about song titles a little bit before I listen to the actual tune, and I don't color my listening experience by looking up lyrics in advance, so ultimately I try to ingest and analyze or ponder the lyrics over the first few successive listens, and then if after maybe a half dozen listens I still can't hear lines clearly, then I will look them up just to make sure I'm picking up on any key details I might be missing out on because I can't hear a sung line clearly. But yes, so on this first listen I will try to catch what I can. But yeah, let's give this a listen. This is Take That. The first track is going to be The Flood, followed by SOS, and it's from their 2011 album Progressed, or Progressed.
Shouting love at the world.
It's got a good voice.
Breathing we are. When the thunder turns around, they'll run so hard we'll tear the ground away.
Luca, you abandoned me. I realize it did go straight into the next track there, almost like a, the thunder, and then suddenly it sounded like a car horn, so I'll back it up when we begin SOS. But just to speak about what I heard, I mean, number one, the phrase there, holding back the flood, it makes me think of the Duran Duran song, Hold Back the Rain, which is about one of their members, John Taylor, perhaps dipping into the nightlife a little too heavily and perhaps endangering himself because, addictive personality and so on. And the lead singer, Simon Le Bon, wrote it about, you got to try to hold that back and not let it overtake you and let yourself become immersed to the point where you drown. So inevitably, I'm thinking about that phrasing, about holding back the flood. Now, other parts of the lyrics sound like they're using the phrase our and we, so I was wondering to the degree this might be autobiographical. Again, if they broke up in the 90s and then got back together in the mid-2000s, which admittedly would be multiple years before this album, I wondered whether there might be some references to what people had said around the group or their own personal struggles, and that's what they were doing, and now they've made progress, they've been able to get past some of those barriers. But of course it could all be allegorical in a more general sense. It could be more about a narrative or a story that's being crafted that is not necessarily reflective of their own journey as a group. But the line, what was it about, their eyes were drowning in, I forget what the word was, but obviously that is itself a metaphor and might relate to, an individual experience about some emotional state, but perhaps experienced collectively by more than one person. So again, whether that's band related or the human condition more generally or people who lived in a certain time and place, I feel like any of those possibilities, or maybe even multiple of them, could be playing out. But yeah, defenders of the faith, there's lines that come from different aspects of history and culture where, again, I'm not sure how narrowly or broadly to interpret it. So again, as when I begin reacting to any other group, over time I get a better sense of the kinds of themes, the kind of stories they relate in their lyrics, so maybe that will be the case. And as with most other deep dives that I began when I didn't know much, if anything, about a group, I find that people bring that type of information, perspective, and not always in full agreement. Again, Duran Duran, perfect example. Simon Le Bon's lyrics are often a bit cryptic, a bit opaque, and there's different interpretations about what they might mean. So perhaps that'll be the case here too. But another point of comparison to a group, which is often how I begin these deep dives, I'm searching for touchstones of reference and similarity, and even in some cases maybe longtime fans of the group are like, wow, I don't see that comparison. But for me, it just helps me sort of find my footing, and then initially, after I get a sense through a few songs and ultimately multiple albums, it's like, oh, okay, so now I'm starting to get the sound of this group, and I don't necessarily need to make those kind of comparisons to try to understand what I'm hearing. But sonically, it reminded me of a Keane song. Now, I've only heard a couple albums of Keane so far, and I think not even a full 2 albums. I've heard one, plus some bonus tunes, and then half of another album. But something about Williams' vocals here, and something about the the pop rock mixed with a bit of an electronic sound. Again, there was that very electronic bass line which came in at a point. I really enjoyed that. There were some strings in there. I enjoyed that. But in general, it had sort of a uplifting pop rock vibe to the sonic arrangement. So in that regard, it was reminding me a bit of Keane, which is a great thing. I've come to enjoy their work a lot. So yeah, just immediately out of the gate, I'm liking the blend of rock meets electronic sounds. Again, Williams' vocals, in a couple points in particular, he went really high at a couple occasions, and then the rhythm with which he delivered that sort of rolling over type of melodic run in a couple of the verses, or I think it was technically like a pre-chorus or something like that. I'm not sure, like, structurally what that part was, but it came back around a couple times. I really did enjoy that. So a really cool opener. Now, as I said, I will go back to the final few seconds of, what is it, Drowning? Is it just Drowning? Or The Flood? What am I saying? I'm thinking about the line. But yes, The Flood, and then we'll go into SOS once again. So not a horn, but a bit of an alarm-like quality to it. I like that very bleepy melody. Separate voices. It's like a bullet to the head. Like a bullet in the head. Ooh, man. When the levee breaks and Manhattan sinks, there won't be water fit to drink. When the winter's warm and the summer's cold, the poison stops you looking old. You'll get a bicycle running for divine intervention, and the satellites are falling. Prepare for ascension as the earth looks on. The outer probability of losing all capacity to function is hereditary. No antibiotic can save us now. We are the virus that we talk about. It's like a bullet to the head. Like a bullet in the head. Like a bullet in the
Without criticism, no administration and no country can succeed, and no republic can survive.
Like a bullet in my head.
It's gonna roll over, or is it gonna stop? You could feel that. So amazing. I think that was fantastic. I may even have liked that one more than the first track. Number one, we've got that very bleepy, almost electronic music, like trance style melody, almost like a electric organ, and then below it there was a bit of electric drag on the bass line, so I don't know if that was a synth bass or maybe an electronic, like a guitar bass, but with some effects on it. And then also, again, it sounded like we were hearing two lead vocals alternating. Maybe it was just, two delivery styles from Williams, but certainly there were some supporting vocals too, including like very elevated and harmonizing near the end. Ultimately, the driving 4/4 beat definitely, got my foot tapping. And then, yeah, like a bullet in the head in SOS, already there's a bit of contradictory tension to that phrase, talking about things, that when the satellites fall and then we'll be ascending or something like that. So it seems like there were dichotomies, or rather like oxymoronical phrases where they seem to be contradicting each other or providing the opposite actions. Again, what was it, warm in the winter, or like the cold in the summer, something like that. So switching concepts on their head. It did also sound like, what was it, when the levee breaks and Manhattan's underwater, and something like won't be safe to drink anymore. So it sounds like apocalyptic a little bit, which I believe there was a line in The Flood that was about, a cataclysm or an apocalypse or something like that. But at the beginning there were those lines about like our politics and our policies. So it sounds like there's a projection into the future, and in a way that is sort of teleological in a catastrophic way, but maybe also with an ascent of some kind, which is typically something you use more positively, like certainly figuratively, but things rising isn't what tends to happen when things are falling apart or indeed falling to the floor. So yeah, again, I don't know the degree to which they use allegorical phrasing to maybe reference real-world events, but this one seems more likely in that regard if you're talking about politics and policies and culture. And there was that spoken word bit at the end, which I don't know where that was taken from, but it seemed to suggest, something about the status of a government, or, what might be expected based on the conditions that are obtaining. So yeah, a lot to learn about and to think about lyrically, and I look forward to reading people's analyses or comments in that regard. But yes, I really enjoyed the sonics of this one, and a couple moments where the vocals, again, they just hit a really powerful melodic vein that was really, what's the right word? Like it hit me very powerfully in the moment. So yeah, ultimately, whether that was just Robbie Williams or someone else in the group, with the whole group maybe harmonizing, I think the vocals are really on point there. And again, it seems like the two songs really did fit with each other, not just because one flows into the other quite literally, and maybe also thematically and lyrically, but yes, there were concepts that feel like you could take them from one song and put them in the other, and they would fit very comfortably. So yeah, curious about that. And again, I wonder the degree to which the songs here, as the line in The Flood about like, the progress has happened now, which wasn't happening before. I wonder how much that relates to the previous record from 2010, which was talking about progress, but not in a past tense conjugation. So either way, very much looking forward to this. Shout out to all the Take Thaters. I don't know if I'm remembering that phrase right. Again, like Duranis and devotees, like the people who like Depeche Mode, which is one of my favorite bands of all time if you're new here. So lots of Depeche Mode reactions if you're interested in that. But the point is, like, I don't know if I'm remembering that phrase correctly, but again, to anyone who might be new here, shout out to you. We've got some Take That to go through. Thank you again to Michaela. Thank you again to Luca, who's now sleeping on the floor. Apparently The Flood was too much for her. She had an SOS of her own, but let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time. Peace.